Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Convo Couch. This is Pastor Jardula here.
It's afternoon, and I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is on the ones and twos. Fam,
it's afternoon.
it's morning in Hawaii. Aloha! I heard they had like 3,000 people at their protest this weekend.
What protest?
They have like anti-you-know-what protest.
Oh, okay.
And they've been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Supposedly. Somebody's going to send me some footage. Fam. Trey Wright was sexy.
Sexy? Wow.
Well, look what he puts. He puts Howdy Johnny T, Jolly P, and Sexy Fee.
Oh, okay.
He's Johnny T. I'm Jolly P. Is that what I am?
Yeah.
Jolly P, and you're
jolly.
Sexy Fee. Can I be Sexy P and her be Jolly Fee?
I'm not jolly.
But it's be like a reverse nickname.
It could be funny.
Could.
It could be funny.
Oh, are you Jolly? No. Kristen Nye, though, beat you through the door. Thank you so much, though, Kristen Nye. It is always appreciated on the couch. And so did Reeve Barker. And Reeve Barker, thank you for the Super 8 contribution. Is also always appreciated on the couch. Happy Monday. Good Monday, everybody. Crazy weekend. Yeah, fam. We went out to the protest. A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. I heard you are collaborating with
A bread and round alliance.
Red and brown
I
alliance. God, that Brooklyn tongue.
It swaps words. It
Yeah,
gets
I
like
noticed.
Yiddish. It's weird.
So there's another protest against George Bush today. We saw Mike Preisner go. The tickets are like between $200 and $600.
Yeah.
I really want to go yell at George Bush, but that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. If someone funds me, I'll fucking do it. But that's a lot of money. And I don't want to give that money to those people anyway, but he took one for the team and he did it. So
It's crazy that he's getting that many people to go see him and everything like that. I mean, well,
It's
those
disgusting.
people out there.
It's disgusting.
The people who were grabbing at Mike Preisner as he was standing up, like the women, like, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're just so supportive and defending fucking George Bush.
But he's a white guy. If
Yeah.
a woman of color went and did it, their brains are gonna break. They're gonna be like, wait a minute, what's happening here?
Not those
But
people.
he is a veteran.
Ugh.
So that has a lot
Yeah.
of weight on
Trust
that.
me, those people won't care. They'd grab you too.
Of course,
Like,
but
those
not,
people
but
are, like-
it would look. I mean, I could see like a Republican outlet being like, "Oh, liberals are attacking," like just like what they did to Nicki Minaj, right? Like they have no shame; they'll do it, but it just looks 10,000 times worse because they're hypocrites, right? They talk about this all the time, like that they care about minorities and shit. And we know they don't. So fam,
Yeah, fam.
we have a hefty show today, so we should probably get with it.
We have 100 people watching on YouTube. We have 21 watching on Rokfin. Let's get those numbers up.
Yes.
And what do we have over here on the Odyssey? ODYSEEICU. I don't like that one. I'm going to have to work on that one. We'll find a different jingle for Odyssey. If anybody comes up with anything, give it to me and I'll let it work right now. But we have a couple people over there as well. So, fam, let's stick in L.A. Because L.A. is a crazy place. What is going down?
Johnny. Well, okay, I can talk about it myself. The LA ordinance severely restricts protesting outside of homes. Okay, so the LA City Council passed an ordinance restricting protests outside of people's houses. This became common during the time when Mayor Garcetti was doing nothing regarding the eviction crisis, the housing crisis, and of course the police protesting, police brutality, and all of that.
Yeah. That's Garcetti's home now, right?
Yeah, that's right there, Garcetti's home.
We've been there a couple times.
It's not letting me.
Yeah, I don't have the ad blocker.
If you can pull it up, I can read some of the article that I wanted to point out. And then, so the council voted 12-2 to pass the ordinance prohibiting picketing within 300 feet of a targeted residential dwelling. So what you see in the picture, they can't do anymore. It's replacing a current law that prohibits such picketing within 100 feet. So they're making it
harder,
further and further away. You have to stay from these people's houses. This also allows anyone who is aggrieved by the unlawful picketing to seek up to 1,000 for each violation. Aggrieved parties could include the target of the protest as well as neighbors. They passed this with no discussion. Councilwoman Nithya Raman, whose district includes Silver Lake, Los Feliz, and Councilman Mike Bonin, who represents several West Side communities, voted against the ordinance. Councilman Joe Buscano, who is running for mayor, was absent from the vote. Zari Zurikat, an attorney with the ACLU of Southern California, said the law will make it harder for protesters to make their messages heard by intended targets. The city is saying if you want to target someone's home, you have to be a football field away from either side. This could be around the corner or really far away. So, yeah, this is ridiculous, of course, because, and here's where I really get mad at the team sports mentality. This affects protesters on both sides of the aisle, whether you're a Republican protesting against mandates or you're a leftist protesting against police brutality. It affects both sides of the aisle. So to me, this is an attack once again on our civil liberties. It is once again diminishing the power of the people to have their First Amendment rights, to really be able to protest, because we have been talking about how people are getting sick and tired of politicians. And one of the things we have said on the show, and other people have said, I think Jimmy Dore mentioned it and several others, we have to make these people uncomfortable. We really have to go to their houses, to their places of residency. Well, with this law, that makes it nearly impossible. And don't make no mistake, this isn't about safety. This isn't about anything more than protecting the establishment politicians that are in power and who the people are really unhappy with. Yeah. People like Gavin Newsom and Eric Garcetti. Like we can't protest these people's houses. How many people in that remember when you went? I forget who that woman was that you went with Gabriel Ramirez and you went in East. Was
it El Monte or
El Monte? Yeah. Like what are you gonna do if you can't protest at these politicians' houses?
Well, that's the thing.
Hilda Solis.
Yeah. Hilda Solis. That was her name. Yes.
The thing that's crazy that everything's crumbling down outside, right? They're trying to open up the economy. Got all these shit jobs out there you can go to for a little bit of no money. People are still on the streets. Homelessness is growing. There's no more extra money when it comes to the unemployment and stuff. They're still trying to put more lockdowns in there, more mandates on. And what are they doing? They're protecting themselves.
Right.
They're protecting themselves. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you understand that we have zero friends in fucking Congress and stuff? This is why it's so fucking bad right now. The team sports just drives me crazy because all these people are pieces of shit. You had two of them. Somebody was absent for the vote, but two of them who said, you know what, wait a second. Like, we shouldn't do this. Two people on that fucking, on that whole fucking committee that thought maybe civil liberties should be okay. And the right to protest our freedoms should be protected.
And they're all Democrats, right?
They're all Democrats, yeah. Yeah.
They're all Democrats. And then, like, supposedly, like, a lot of those were, like, progressives, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the thing now. Progressives don't stand up for our basic freedoms anymore. Not at all. I mean, seriously.
It's a right-wing thing to do now, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're humanists here, right? We don't get caught up in the whole nation state where we are and stuff like that. But this place was supposed to be founded on freedom, personal freedoms. The right to express yourself. This is supposed to suppress power. That we have the rights to go out there. Listen, you fucking act up, power. We'll go hold you accountable.
Right.
Well, now they're taking away the means for you to hold them accountable.
Right. And now this is LA City Council, right? So this is the city of LA only, right? However, now that there's a precedent set, right? A precedent, and the city council has done this, other cities can follow through. The state can begin assessing the situation. And by the way, we saw this similar actions with the squad voting to protect themselves with more police money at the federal level. You see how this none of these incidents are exist in a vacuum. They all have some sort of connection because they're afraid. Yeah. They're afraid. These politicians are afraid of you now because they're seeing how people are getting desperate and how people are pissed off. So what are they going to do? They're going to protect themselves. And so to all the people on the right who constantly say, we back the blue hasn't backed you and they will not back you. Who is going to enforce certain mandates? Or they're going to be those people. They're going to be law enforcement that are going to enforce that. So leave your ideology aside. This isn't communism. This isn't socialism. This is authoritarianism and gearing towards fascism.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. No matter what side of the aisle you fall in, this should be opposed. At least the ACLU is opposing this. But this opposing this and saying mandates should be okay is contradictory. This is why people like Garland say like this doesn't make any sense. And so again, like this is just another example. You had an Instagram post, Jonny?
Yeah, so this is where I found out about it. I follow NLGLA because they're the lawyers, National Lawyers Guild, representing my case here against mine and Fee's case. It's a class representative case against the police for unlawful arrest and detainment over a year ago. So it says NLG, the National Lawyers Guild of Los Angeles condemns the Los Angeles City Council's decision to pass without discussion an ill-conceived and needless ordinance prohibiting protest activity within 300 feet of a residential dwelling. It is clear that this new law, which carries a penalty up to $1,000 for each violation, is intended to chill First Amendment activity and shield council members, the mayor, and other elected officials from the inconvenience of hearing Angelino's voice, their dissatisfaction at the ongoing failures of our political leadership. In lieu of adequately addressing housing insecurity, police killings, and the ever-widening economic inequality in one of the richest cities in the world, this council has chosen to focus on curtailing activism. Mm-hmm. The fact that the ordinance targets and prohibits not just organizers from protesting, but the act of organizing a protest itself, lays bare this thinly veiled attempt by City Council to silence dissent. We are acutely aware that the biggest contributor of noise pollution in Los Angeles is not the organized chants of protesters in front of residential dwellings, but rather the daily incessant hovering of LAPD helicopters above residential dwellings, which cost roughly $1,000 per hour to operate and do nothing to promote public safety. Abso-fucking-lutely. We strongly encourage the City Council to redirect its time and energy toward limiting bloated police budgets and securing humane housing for all, instead of developing new laws that limit political speech.
Well, thank God there's some lawyers guild on our side. You can't expect the ACLU now to jump in there.
Well, they did it for this, but like I said, it's contradictory based on their stance on mandates. I mean, this is all, again, you guys, the erosion of our civil liberties is here. I mean, it's blatant. They're putting it out there. The moment Gavin Newsom won, boom, they unleashed all the mandates, and then they of course passed this. I mean, imagine what's going on here. Think for a minute that it's not all connected. It absolutely is.
Yeah. Where's super progressive champion Kevin DeLeon? Where you at? Nowhere to be seen.
Well, he obviously voted for it because he was not one of the people that opposed.
And real quick, I just want to read a couple things. It says that this city's new law is modeled after one in San Jose, which that city passed in the 1990s after anti-abortion activists targeted abortion workers at their homes. Also, political strategist Jasmine Koenig said Tuesday she has mixed feelings about the new restrictions. Koenig was involved in protests outside the home of West Hollywood resident Ed Buck, who was later convicted of charges that he supplied the drugs that killed two men at his residence. Ed Buck is a big Democratic establishment donor. Big donor, donated to everybody. We've covered it. Look up Ed Buck, Convo Couch. Although it looks like it's, if you look up stuff, Convo Couch stuff on YouTube, it doesn't show up. So you have to go to DuckDuckGo. By the way, if we were not able to protest Ed Buck at his apartment building, I doubt we would have been able to bring the attention needed to show what was happening there. Exactly. Weighing in on the proposal, L.A. Mayor Eric Garcetti said First Amendment rights aren't about targeting private citizens or residential areas. Asked if he would support the law, Garcetti said he wanted to read it first.
Oh, God.
The mayor added that he didn't understand why protesters target residences when there is public space where you can certainly be heard, where you can make your protest, where you can express your voice, Garcetti said. And then apparently it requires a second procedural vote by the council.
Yes, so Tuesday. So tomorrow, I need to get more information, but I was told that you need to call in at 10 a.m. if you're in LA, obviously, that they're going to start the procedural vote. But they're trying to hide this and pass it. The fact that they could pass it on the first without any sort of discussion, that to me is insane.
I want to talk about one of the first times I went to Garcetti's house. It was kind of interesting because there was a group of Trumpers or Patriot people. Joe Collins was there and whatnot, and it was a very diverse group and stuff. So I think it's like when you have situations like this, people all understand for a second whose hands are around their neck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting to see that. We haven't seen a lot of stuff like that, but that was something very intriguing. You know?
Yeah, and protests have been going there left and right. We've seen Trump supporters go there and BLM supporters go to Garcetti's house.
Yeah, it was nice seeing like the both sides going against Garcetti. That just means like how awful of a mayor you've been.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
Well, like I said, everybody has to realize whose hands are around their neck.
Right.
It's not each other.
Right.
And that's the problem. Everybody's still going at each other. The hands around our neck are the same fucking people. We're getting choked by the same people, ladies and gentlemen. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. 215 watching on YouTube.
Let's get that up. We got some more friends? All right.
We do have one more person over here. Robert L. Arand is here. Donation towards Pasta Tow Bill.
Aww. That was Pasta being a goon and not reading the signs.
Dude, what did I say? In LA, no matter what, you gotta always double and triple check the signs. It's like, it's ridiculous in LA, you know? I read it wrong. I did. But thank you so much, Robert. That's awesome.
Okay, guys. So let's go on into this section.
The Convo Couch wouldn't be the Convo Couch, fam, unless we had a little session on this.
Well, because I mean, this is ridiculous now. This story gets absolutely crazy. So AOC doubled down on her Instagram live on the dress stunt and also claimed that she's a victim, that she's constantly attacked. And then, of course, I'm going to mention what's going on with her working class designer, who is apparently not working class at all, not even a little bit. So she said, a happy Sunday AMA, and she was asked, do you regret wearing the dress after all the backlash from it? I loved it, by the way. And she said, no, this is a timeline of all people in the U.S. researching tax the rich on Google over the last 5 years. That spike dotted line at the end, that's the number of people in the U.S. researching tax the rich since Monday. So she's giving herself credit for that. Some critics say awareness isn't enough. And of course that is true, but mass class consciousness is a necessary component for action. And sometimes I think people believe there's more out there than there actually is. There is also a built-in resistance to certain ideas going mainstream in general, in a way that's not unlike people who dislike when other people start to appreciate the indie music they have enjoyed for years, as though popularity is inherently bad or corrupting and things can only be virtuous when they are unpopular or obscure. But how can we build a movement if it's unpopular? I'm not interested in being part of a club or to live in a way that I drive a sense of self-worth from constant holier-than-thou criticism. I am interested in mass conversations of a system of class, race, justice. Right. Unions and cooperatives should be mainstream. Combos about the value of labor should be pop, because the alternative is a pop culture of worshiping billionaires and thinking excessive wealth is cool when people can't afford to be housed or fed. Some may disagree, and the thoughtful critiques are important too, but honestly, this whole thing pissed off the right people, because billionaire-owned media outlets have been going after me for days, which means we did something right. Okay, so first of all, billionaires haven't been going after her. Like, I guess you could say some people on the right have been going after her for the hypocrisy, but they haven't really been going after her. They've been promoting her. They've been nonstop, and I'll show you how they've been promoting her, but what do you think of what she's saying?
Really quickly, just to sum it up. Oh shit! Really? I mean, well, let's just go on with the session, because I want to wait, because I'm holding my thoughts right here. Because I mean, this is just. I mean,
it's really, for me, it's like psychological grooming, what she's doing here.
She's making the assumption that people Google tax the rich because they want to tax the rich. No,
yeah.
Right.
They want to see the dress. The rich. They want to see the dress.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
sums it up pretty well.
Oh my God. Assumption there. It's completely false.
Right, but and she's not. She knows this, right? They all know this. They know that the Googling tax the rich isn't going to make rich people willingly give the money to poor people. That's there's zero connection there.
Well, she's saying a lot of people aren't necessarily tax the rich, which is bullshit.
Bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit.
Yeah. the
Why? Because
working
she
class.
shows up to some fucking Met Gala with a dress on. That changes things. It's like she threw some stink bomb in there. Bullshit. I can't wait for Fiorella to prove how they've been promoting her right now. Because that was one of the first things I was attacked about over the weekend was like, oh, you'll give AOC so much shit, but you'll go and cover this. I'm like, what kind of fucking stupid
What does
is that?
that have to do with
It's
anything?
psychological grooming is
That's
what you
exactly-
said.
yeah.
Go ahead, please.
She's using the progressive terms. I just want to put that out there, like cooperatives and this, and she's using the same arguments neoliberals use on Bernie supporters 5 years ago, because what they would say is, oh, you guys just can't, like you can't take a win if somebody just is just close enough. You're such purists. You do, and it's like. It's not about that. It's about substance. There's no substance to this. It's all performative. And like I said, performative could be anybody, wearing something or whatever. That's all performative. But it's more than that. It's performative, and they're trying to mask it as this great scheme, like to be like a working class leader. That's not how you get. This is not how you get change. This is how you get the facade of change, like the symbolic gestures that do nothing for the working class.
The facade of change.
So happy Sunday. And they said, is it hard to take a stand against your own party sometimes? And she said, yeah, it can be unbelievably difficult at times. Last year I got on an extremely well-funded Dem primary challenge to the tune of $3 million, funded and supported by the corporate wing of the party and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is a seemingly named dark money lobbyist group, by the way. That kind of thing doesn't happen when you're a good Democrat that always votes with the party. But aside from challenges, there can be extreme environment of bullying, disrespect, and intimidation around those who challenge the status quo. So again, she's painting herself as somebody that challenges the status quo when she has voted in line with the majority of Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats, and she pretty much confers with Nancy Pelosi before they do their votes, just like they did with the police bill, where they voted present, and etc. They do this all the time. It isn't as bad this term, but my first term was pretty awful in respect. I mean, the stories I could tell you, the degree of viciousness was fueled by quite a few factors, but one was a pervasive idea that my election was a fluke and that I would be gone soon. When I won re-election with even stronger margins the second time, I think that's when more people started treating me with basic respect. So again, she's the working, the fighter for the working class, anti-establishment, even though we know that's not real. Instagram has a younger audience, right? So people who don't know what we know are going to be like, oh yeah, AOC, she fights for the working class.
Yeah.
And how's your happiness level? Are you doing okay? Was what someone asked. I'm okay. The constant barrage of hate, vitriol, judgment, criticism, etc. can be a lot to carry. I have my ups and downs like everyone else. I'm really grateful to have OG friends from before all this craziness who know me well and hold it down.
Oh, fuck.
So she's
Stop.
a victim. And I wanted to point this out too, because last week we covered her ties with the Financial Innovations Inc. If you look at this, it says a fun highlight from her store, right? We can find this in the website itself, right? And you can see that in order to make a purchase, you must consent to the contribution rules below. I am a U.S. citizen or lawful admitted permanent resident, i.e. a green card holder. So why would you have to show your citizenship to get a shirt, right? Or to show your residency? Well, this is the same requirements that are necessary for when you donate to a political campaign, right? So buying a merch from this shop from AOC equals donating to AOC. This is why the FEC involvement is likely related to tax avoidance. Now, I can't 100% prove this, but if you go and look at any sort of donation to any politician, you must do the same thing. It is very strange that you have to also denote if you're a citizen or not to buy a shirt. I've never had to do that to buy anything else online. Why? Because this is in a way to it seems that the buying of a merch equals donating to her to AOC's whatever fund, right? And in this way you could technically avoid taxes on sales, payroll, income, businesses, etc. So
merchandise is a premium for a donation.
Right.
As the total value of your transaction is legally considered to be a political contribution, FEC regulation requires that we verify some personal information prior to checkout. You got to put your employer and occupation. And yeah, here are the statements. This is what happened when I put the shirt to the cart and I want to check out. Employer, occupation, I agree. I'm a U.S. citizen. A contribution is made from my own funds. And I'm making this contribution from my own personal credit card. No corporate. I'm at least 18 years old. I'm not a federal contractor. So those are all the requirements. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm going to continue looking into that.
I mean, what a cappuccino fucking communist fucking thing. Let's get a tax the rich shirt. Get out there. These fucking people, they don't want to get their hands dirty whatsoever. They want a fucking riskless revolution.
They're co-opting
Just agree.
a revolution. Not even tax the rich is more of a reformist message, but they're even co-opting that, right? They're co-opting this whole revolutionary sort of jargon and bringing it into the Democratic Party. That's what they're doing. That's what the CIA and the state agencies are experts at doing, putting people out there like Obama. They did this with Obama too. This is why I said she's like the next Barack Obama. Because she's very similar, like enchanting, very good at speaking, the way she was trained and
tax the rich by using a platform that are fucking Clinton loyalists that fucking push NAFTA and just made the rich uber rich. That's who the fuck we're taxing now? Who the fuck are you kidding?
And I just wanted to show this picture. That vax one. You can see that. Let everyone know you're vaxxed so you can go mask free without looking like you don't believe in science.
Oh my God.
So that they're promoting that. And then.
And Fee Marketing is the company. The
Financial Innovations
is the company that does the shirts for AOC. Yeah. And is union based, but yeah.
It is union based. So what the fucking neo progressives are saying, well, at least it's union based. That's why it's so expensive and blah blah blah. And you know how it is when we were trying to like it's so hard. It's almost impossible unless you're like you have a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, it could be like the shirts are made somewhere else, brought over, and then the printing's done over here. It's union based. We don't know the whole. You know what I'm saying? Like there's ways to get around that stuff. So I'd like to see some shirts made in the States by a union and stuff. So
so also if you go down to the end of their website where it says integrated fulfillment, you'll see a picture of Hillary Clinton because they were also huge Hillary Clinton fans. There she is.
Aw, with the arrow. I'm with her.
Yeah, so that's they made the shirts for her. I'm with her.
For her failed campaign.
Yeah. So there
failed
it is.
Political career.
Cute. So and this is the thing I wanted to really point out about her designer. And of course, the New York Post is, they lean right? But according to the New York Post, this woman owes $103,000 and $220,000 in back taxes. She received $41,666 in PPP loans. She has unpaid interns, owed $62,000 plus in workers' comp, and she still found $250,000 for a table at the Met Gala. Now her boyfriend's really rich, so maybe she didn't pay for it. But this is her house in LA. That's a picture of her house in LA. I don't know about you, but a working class person does not have a house like that in LA. She also, I wanted to point out a person that worked for her complained of treatment and how they were mistreated. I'm going to scroll down. It's right here. Ex-staffers blasted.
It's right below the picture of the couch.
It's right below the picture of the
living
house,
room. Look
at
the
living room.
That's not a proletariat's house.
Yeah. It's the article, Johnny. If you click on the article. Yeah, sorry, it's the article. If you click on the New York Post
Frank
article.
Lutz article.
So apparently her ex-staff blasted the operation as a sweatshop that relied on legions of unpaid interns working full-time jobs. So you can go scroll down a few paragraphs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the second picture.
Right below it.
And this person said, I experienced a lot of harassment when I worked for her. One former contract employee told the Post, Aurora, that's the name of the designer, would ask me to do things that were not in anyone's job description. Right there. Yep. and like scheduling her gynecological appointments. The work environment was so hostile that I was afraid to ask for my check. The employee was ultimately terminated. An ex-intern called James quite cold, adding that she never gives recognition or acknowledgement to her team. And of course, I mean, I'm not gonna, get into everything, but you guys should read the article. She's got a lot of things she hasn't paid for, but her home in LA is in the Hollywood Hills. It's a two-door style home with cathedral ceilings, 7,000 square feet, and it was 1.6 million in LA in the middle of the pandemic, it was probably underpriced at that point. So it should probably be a lot more. Now, okay, I don't care if people have houses. That's not a lot of money in LA. But I'm just telling you, the way the media painted it, the way AOC painted it, the way these progressives painted it, that she's a working class designer. Now we know she's dating this guy who is worth $100 million. We know that she has all these tax money that she hasn't paid. She got a PPP loan on top of that. She has a nearly $2 million home in the Hollywood Hills. That's like one of the prime areas. It's not like the Valley. It's not like, it's a prime area. So this whole thing, right? And this is nothing, okay, against the designer. But my issue is how they've painted her as like AOC's doing a favor to this working class woman. It's like they acted like this woman was like barely scraping by.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. And you see, and then she talks about how the media has been attacking her. The only media that has really attacked anything has been more right-leaning media going into the hypocrisy of the designer and how that was portrayed, right? Like nobody's really attacking like the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC. They've all been propping her up. So it's just interesting to see like the story develop as to how they've
Like I said, it was just so funny that the first thing that somebody said to me this weekend at the rally was like, "You guys go after AOC so hard, yet you condone this." I'm like, oh my Lord, what you're standing. And it is psychological grooming.
Yeah.
You just think about a lot of high school students and young college students who really, they're just on the surface level when it comes to politics. They don't understand what's going on. They don't pay attention as we do. They're going to come out liking AOC for a while, and it's going to be a while before they get shock treatment and realize, like, oh my God, she is a fugazi.
We've lived through Obama as well. So that's
we
part
liked
of it
Obama too.
Yeah,
we loved Obama. I mean,
so that's why it was easier to spot AOC faster than Obama, like because it was like, it's like, okay, now I'm seeing a lot of the similarities here. Like, okay, you won't fool me once, fool me twice, can't fool me again.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you're not gonna fool me again.
See, I can't even be as dumb as
not gonna fool
Bush.
me again. He literally forgot the fucking.
I was trying my hardest.
Can't fool me again. Can't get fooled again.
God, I want. Imagine screaming that as he's doing his little speech.
Look at this.
Lucio Zago.
Lucio Zago. You guys keep me sane. Thank you. We love you.
Love you.
To you and your fam. Please give our love. Man, love Lucio. No offense, fam. No offense here. My friend and I are speaking again. We don't agree on the boop boop. Hopefully one day he can see where I'm coming from. He understands my body, my choice when it comes to women's reproductive rights, but not the boop boop. That is a weird thing, but we won't talk about that now. We'll talk about that in the last segment.
I'm glad you guys are talking again.
Listen, fantasy football has brought me and my friend back together, so at least we have that. I know, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it's still on shaky ground, you know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. Those of you who watch the show, those of you who follow independent media, you have a lot more knowledge and insight to what's going on. Mm-hmm. So you can make, decisions based upon a lot more knowledge than what they're getting in the mainstream. Because the mainstream is just completely, once again, I love what you said, fam. It's psychological grooming. That's what they do. Right? You know what I'm saying? They put up this facade, They do this in the NFL games and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And it's always Johnny, how about the advertising? It's advertisement after advertisement after advertisement after advertisement.
Right.
You know who's running this fucking world. Those are the people. All the advertisers.
Everything is propaganda.
It is. So it's very, very hard. So I'm glad that you're there, and you can slowly start talking people into stuff and giving them some more information. You got to pick which articles you want them to read when it comes to certain things. Don't give them too much at one time, because if you give them too much at one time, they'll immediately push it away. Like, all right, this is too much. It's going over the top. You got to baby feed it. Like the little baby, little by little. We'll take a look at this. We'll take a look at that, depending on the subject.
That's usually how I do it.
Yeah. I remember when people were like, what's Russiagate? What's Russiagate, this and this and that. They're just being racist right now against Obama with Obamagate, you know what I'm saying? And I would show them certain videos that were like a little bit more, not as deep down the rabbit hole, a little bit more on the surface level. I remember when it came to explaining Russiagate, my mom's friends that wanted to understand it, Garland Nixon had a little video he did in his living room that was just simple, easy to understand. Those are the things you want to get out there. Don't give too much too fast. That makes sense. 350 people watching on YouTube's fam.
Johnny
Rock. Johnny Sections. 70 people watching on Rokfin. Let's get this shit.
Numbers up.
11 on Odyssey. All right. So Johnny, I'm getting ready to learn this stuff now. I saw about the volcanoes, but Johnny's got a great section today.
Well, we're getting into the world news, right?
Yes.
First, in the world news, in the global south and everywhere else, there was a volcano eruption in Spain. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but here's some footage of that. You can see that. I didn't know there were volcanoes in Spain.
Either did I until yesterday.
Let's find out which volcano this was. Volcano.
I saw one with a house, Johnny. It was scary. Like, a couple thousand people had to be evacuated. It was scary.
Oh, it was on La Palma Island. Forcing thousands to evacuate. Lava continued to flow slowly from a volcano that erupted in Spain's Canary Islands off northwest Africa.
Oh, it's near, okay. Is it near the other islands?
Una vez iniciada la erupción del volcán que todos esperábamos en la isla de La Palma, pues estamos haciendo seguimiento de la actividad del propio volcán con medidas de dióxido de azufre en posición móvil terrestre, con un coche dando vueltas a la isla para detectar el dióxido de azufre que emite el volcán a través de la pluma volcánica que está emitiendo por toda la isla. Aparte estamos haciendo fotografía térmica.
Look at that picture.
It's nuts.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
So this is the Canary Islands, it looks like.
It's weird. There's all this shit.
There's
going
another
on in the environment.
video of the volcanoes. You see all that smoke. Provided by Rupley.
Look at that. Can you imagine that in the middle of the night seeing that shit? I mean, it looks beautiful, but it's also scary. Somebody should be mining Bitcoin right there.
So it's like off the coast of Spain and Portugal, much closer to Africa, which is why it's
Yeah, so, and then there's this last video here. I'm adding. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the one I saw.
Lo que estamos viendo ahora mismo justamente en directo es increíble lo que hace la naturaleza y
I'm sorry, sir, but your volcano insurance ran out last year. Unfortunately, we can't cover you.
So you know how hot that must be right there?
You know,
Oh my God.
we have one in Yosemite.
Yeah,
It's an actual
it's a super volcano.
This one here?
No, Yosemite.
Yosemite.
Is it active, though? Can it
I
erupt?
don't think so.
No, it's not active. But it can be.
Really?
It can be. Oh, yeah.
God gets pissed off?
So that's that. I also wanted to show, I saw this the other day from Richard Medhurst. U.S. trucks, American trucks leave Syria, stealing our precious oil. Meanwhile, Iranian trucks enter, bringing fuel to those in need in Lebanon.
Yeah.
That's the difference between the imperialists and the resistance. So that's just kind of, he made a tweet like that. The fuel brought in by Hezbollah will go to the hospitals, nursing homes, orphanages, Lebanese Red Cross, and essential services completely free of charge. The rest will be sold to everyone else with zero markup in a time when there's no fuel at all, as the economic crisis deepens. This is a defining historic moment for the resistance. Iran and Syria, 2 countries under brutal U.S. sanctions, working with Hezbollah to bring in fuel and bring the de facto American siege and break the de facto American siege on Lebanon. Neither the Americans nor Israelis dare to stop those tankers and trucks. So that's kind of interesting.
Okay. All right, I was talking yesterday about this with somebody for a while, right? I was going over a bunch of stuff, and it's kind of interesting because on Wednesday I'm going to bring a story to the table what's going on the other side of the African coast over there with the Socotra Islands and stuff. What really is significant about this, Johnny, is the fact is that Hezbollah has gone away from waiting for any permission from the Lebanese government. The Lebanese government is it can't be dominant. It has to have representatives of Christians, other groups, whatnot. And a lot of the Lebanese government was figuring if they starve the country that the people will hate Hezbollah. So Hezbollah was like, fuck you. We're going to make a deal to get oil and gas over into Lebanon. We don't care about your permission, and they're doing it. So it is very historical what's going on for them to do something like this in Lebanon. That's the significance of what's going on. Literally, they're acting on their own like, fuck you. People are starving. We're going to get them some oil. We're going to get them some energy, and we're going to do this.
But the problem is the United States and, of course, NATO-backed allies are going to paint this as terrorists aiding Iran. And
of course,
Syria, as usual, right?
As always.
But remember that because that's what's happening at every single turn. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's the significance. But that's pretty big, though. I think
big.
It's big.
It's kind of an allyship. You see the alliances forming stronger bonds against the U.S. hegemony.
Right.
You see it in West Asia, and you're also seeing it in the global South, which Johnny will get into.
Yeah.
As well.
We're going to get into that. And just real quick, I'm just changing this right here.
Technically in Latin America, to be more specific.
Yeah.
South America.
Latin America, yeah. You know. Okay, so other than that, the other thing I wanted to show was the fact that Peru is, it's interesting, there's some things going on. Peru expands exports via the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. And real quick, I just want to give some context on that this CPTPP is a trade agreement among Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, now Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. It evolved from the TPP, which never entered into force due to the withdrawal of the United States, which is what Trump did, right?
Yes.
And then the 11 signatories have combined economies representing 13.4% of the global GDP. So it's one of the largest free trade areas. So, I mean, kind of look at it. So now that Peru is at it, because they just added Peru, you'll have this. So it'd just be like going all the way, boom, 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 boom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're just traveling the Pacific. So that's interesting. What was you guys know about the TPP more, right? Can you tell me more about the TPP?
I wasn't an expert in it. I know it was Obama was kind of pushing it. I'd have to go back and research what was going on, but I know it was a very disastrous bill for American workers again.
Right. It allowed the export of work outside of America. So the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, is one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders was pretty much placed in 2016 as very similar to Trump in that aspect, is because he was against the TPP.
Right.
Because what it would do, it would export jobs abroad and destroy American jobs here, good union American jobs. And Obama and Hillary Clinton had been very, very staunch advocates of the TPP. And it's more of a global capitalist economic type of plan where they market it as, trade is good, but what it did, it was just disastrous for a lot of workers here.
A lot of people were selling it, people who were against it, as NAFTA 2.0 is what they were saying. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's gonna crush jobs. So
I'm a little bit kind of like is this a good thing? Because honestly,
It might be good for the Peruvian people.
Oh yeah.
it might be
because
good for Peruvian people, but also it might involve them into dependency with the West, with the West, which is interesting.
Well, Vietnam is there, and they're communist.
Yeah,
Which is interesting.
it's interesting. I don't know if I'd have to read into how it's different.
Yeah, so it's Australia, Brunei, Canada. You know, Canada's neoliberal. Chile,
Chile's right now pretty fascist.
Japan's super capitalistic.
Yeah.
Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, and Singapore and Vietnam. So
Yeah. I mean, there are countries that can benefit from globalism. We're not one of them, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we constantly get everything made for us and we don't produce anything, it's a different thing. But a poor country that can produce things and now they have more avenues
Right.
to sell it, it can actually help pull them out of
That's what
poverty.
that's what
the
I was
way it
thinking.
worked for China.
That's
you know?
what I was thinking. So
Yeah.
it might be
Yeah.
not good for Americans, right?
But
'Cause-
it could be good for,
but
yeah.
it could be good for
Vietnam is on there, you said, right?
Peru, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Malaysia.
Malaysia.
So, I'm gonna play this video real quick and translate too. Here's where I saw it. Peru enters this Sunday the comprehensive and progressive treaty of the Trans-Pacific Association with a potential market of 500 million people. In this way, the South American country becomes the eighth economy of this bloc that activates the treaty, making a milestone for the foreign trade of this nation. The trade exchange mechanism is made up of the economies of Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Singapore, and Vietnam. This treaty includes chapters related to market access, electronic commerce, investment, customs, sanitary measures, and technical barriers to trade. Also seeks sustainable growth of its members with chapters related to the development of small and medium-sized enterprises and environmental and labor issues, among others. So I don't know. He was making moves. I thought it was interesting. It's kind
I
of
like the fact he's wearing that hat still.
yeah.
He's a pimp. Love Pedro Castillo.
They also avocados and grapes apparently have hit record highs in Peru. Economic Watch Peruvian exports hit record high. Favorable global raw material prices and a sustained recovery in national production have boosted Peruvian exports to the tune of $29.17 billion US dollars in the first 7 months of this year. It's a historic figure that has contributed to the Peruvian economy affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Some non-traditional export sectors also saw an increase. In particular, it's due to the historical export of two products, avocado, which reached $949 million US dollars, a historical record, and grapes. Compared to the first 7 months of last year, Peru's avocado exports grew 47%. So
That's good.
Peru is always dependent on exports of traditional raw materials. We are talking about mining products, some oil, gas, fish products, but now we have another new growth engine. And recalling that Aquino said, referring to non-traditional products, recalling that 20 years ago Peru did not export anything and had little importance in the world food market. Aquino said today the country's products are on the tables of the world and in the markets of the world. So that's cool that Castillo's helping make that happen.
Well, traditionally, what would happen, Johnny, is a lot of fucking American Western corporations would come in there and they would steal all those resources and sell it and pocket themselves. Pedro Castillo said from the get-go he wants to bring that money back home for the people. So if those exports financially can reach the people of Peru and
Right.
they can reap the benefits of those exports, that would be great.
So that's something we got to look into.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And I'm happy the fact that Peru is heavy in avocado and grapes. I love those foods.
Yeah. They're different over there, the avocados and the Mexican ones, actually.
Really?
Similar, but different. I just wanted to correct. Initially, Hillary Clinton was against the TPP for a while, and then she flip-flopped afterwards because she got a lot of pushback. So
I think it was the other way around. She was for it, and then when they called her on it, she was like, "Oh, I'm against it" on the campaign trail or something like that.
Well, Bernie was against
Yeah.
it, so she was trying to compete with him.
And then the last thing in my world in the news was Vietnam. Yesterday, but I guess 2 days ago now, Vietnam approved the Cuban vaccine. Abdallah. Cuba's vaccines stand out because they use more conventional and well-known vaccine strategies that tend to have less side effects, according to Gary Cobinger, a renowned infectious disease specialist at the University of Laval in Canada. So that happened, and this was as Vietnam paid a visit. The leader paid a visit to Cuba. So that's interesting, and yeah, I had another comment there. You know, it's not a big pharma vaccine; it's more conventional. And would the U.S. accept that if people got vaccinated with that? And that's the question. And I feel like it's a no.
No, they wouldn't.
So
No.
They wouldn't.
They've already said that they didn't
yeah.
want people from Mexico coming in unless they were vaccinated with our vaccine.
Right. And then the last thing, I guess part of this segment was they hate us because they ain't us, fam. Behind every successful person lies a pack of haters. It's something I just saw on Twitter. I mean, on Instagram. I'm like, yeah, that's us right there.
I mean,
Who hates us?
ha.
They hate us because
Being
they hate
honest
us.
may not get you many friends, but it will get you the right ones. John Lennon said.
Did he really say that?
He did say that.
That's awesome. He always said all he's saying is give peace a chance. All right.
No offense, you
Do you want to go to the next section, Johnny? You want me to read the one Super Ray real quick?
Yeah, read the Super Ray.
Check AOC to see if she's been branded by NXIVM. Her BF is a brothel. Yeah, I mean, everybody's talking about that right now. Her boyfriend is a brothel, so so we'll see about that. I got to look more into that, but a lot of people talk about that. I know Jason
It's just
Bermas
so weird
talks
to me
about it all the time.
that in every politician, you know, they date all these people that are like, even if the person isn't rich, you'll find a connection to some other rich person, and it's like you can't. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't hide that. Like, you can't say that has nothing to do with anything.
I know, right?
I mean, could there be a good billionaire or a good... No, not a billionaire. Maybe a good millionaire. But, you know.
All right.
So, Johnny.
Yeah. So, fams, if you don't know, I didn't know about this until somebody posted it. On Twitter, I saw it, but on Saturday, September 18th, 2021, the 6th Summit of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, otherwise known as the CLAC, was held in Mexico City. And the last summit was 4 years ago, on 2017, for various reasons. Maduro was actually at this summit, which is a big deal. Because there was a price on his head for $15 million from the U.S. And he just went to Mexico, which is crazy. So to give some background info, the CLAC, or the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, is a regional bloc of Latin American and Caribbean states created on the 2011 in Caracas in Venezuela. It consists of 32 sovereign countries in the Americas, and since the focus is obvious from its name, you know, on Latin American and Caribbean countries, you know, these are the countries. So you got Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico.
Are those up on the screen, Johnny?
Yes.
Cool.
You got Nicaragua, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela, Haiti. You got Haiti there, and then 12 English-speaking countries, and Antigua, Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominicana, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, you know, all these other countries, Trinidad and Tobago, where Nicki Minaj is from, and then Suriname, too, one Dutch-speaking country. So it was created to deepen Latin American integration, and by some people thought that it was to reduce significant influence of the United States on the politics and economics of Latin America, right? Because the U.S. is always sticking their fucking shit in Latin America. It is seen as an alternative to the OAS, the Organization of American States, which was made by the U.S. Right?
It's a Western-funded NGO.
Western-funded NGO
To push, against the Soviet Union.
So, the regional body that was founded by the U.S. and 21 other Latin American nations originally as a countermeasure to potential Soviet influence in the region. So, CLAC is the successor of the Rio Group. I feel like more people have heard about the Rio Group. and the Latin American and Caribbean Summit on Integration, otherwise known as CALC. So we can see this organization is rooted and open to what Venezuela was under Chavez's presidency, right? And there's a lot more history that y'all can find. So it's just, you know, a committee of like all the Latin American countries and Caribbean.
A unity of sorts.
Yes. So then now I'll go over some of the, some of the highlights from there. I saw this article. So, you know, all those countries were there. Some presidents weren't there. They sent their vice presidents or somebody else. So criticisms of the OAS and the presence of Maduro marked the CELAC summit. So I'm going to read this. Leaders of the community Latin American CELAC held a summit in Mexico on Saturday, which criticized the OAS, requests that the United States changes relationship with the region, and questions to the presence of Maduro that generated divisions among the attendees, because not all of them are, you know, super lefty, right? The sixth summit of heads in Caribbean states began with the surprise arrival of Maduro and the absence of Argentinian President Alberto Hernandez. Apparently there's a lot of shit going on right now in Argentina. Do you guys know anything about that?
I know they're up for an election soon.
It says the blows of the political crisis facing Argentina were also evidenced in the meeting when the person Fernandez had appointed to represent him, Felipe Sola, was dismissed as foreign minister on his flight to Mexico, and the government spokesperson had to be assumed by the undersecretary Juan Valle. So when opening the meeting, AMLO, the Mexican president, demanded that the United States end the embargo policies and a new and vigorous relationship between the peoples of America. And he said, it seems to me that it's time to replace the policy of blockades and mistreatment with the option of respecting each other, walking together and associating ourselves with the good of America without violating sovereignty. Addressing his counterpart, Joe Biden, the host of the summit said that his U.S. counterpart would win support of the U.S. Congress, if it allocates resources for the benefits of the people of the region to reduce inequality and the violence that he claimed are the causes of migratory flows. It'd be awesome if they spoke about imperialism. I didn't listen to it, you know. It was like a 5-hour thing. So plans to combat the coronavirus pandemic, climate change, economic difficulties, and the defense of democracy and human rights dominated the debate agenda, as well as direct criticism of Maduro's participation in the summit and role of the organization of American states, role of the OAS. So let me see here. So Maduro said, my presence at the summit in he didn't say that. This is somebody who, the Paraguayan president said, my presence at the summit in no sense or circumstance represents recognition of the government of Mr. Nicolas Maduro. There is no change in my government's position. I think it's gentleman to say it head on, because Maduro showed up. He said he wasn't going to go. He was going to send his vice president, but then he showed up. And right here it said the re-election in 2018 of Maduro was not recognized by the United States and the majority of Latin American countries and the European Union, which alleged that the voting process was carried out without meeting the minimum democratic standards. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry there. My bad.
Abdo Benitez, which was the Paraguayan president, also said there's no other way than democracy. He added that respect for democracy is not only given at the polls, but also in the exercise of power without the manipulation of justice or the persecution of opponents. His Uruguayan counterpart, Luis Lacalle Pou, was added to his Benitez's proposals to directly question Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua. So,
yeah,
Venezuela and Cuba, and then Nicaragua recently, they had a change, right?
Nicaragua is they were originally the Sandinistas.
Yeah, that's Daniel Ortega. So these three countries that he's talking about are westernized enemies. In other words, they don't like the governments of Venezuela, Cuba, or Nicaragua.
Right.
So that's why Uruguay is being just a puppet of the United States of the West.
These countries have been combating imperialism
big time, and they are socialist, communist countries.
Right. And there's no okay, so then in responding to questions, Maduro affirmed that we must turn the page of the divisionism that was inserted in Latin America, of the harassment of the Bolivarian revolution, and now the incessant harassment of the Cuban Revolution and the Nicaraguan Revolution. That is not the way. The South American president said, citing his mentor, the late Hugo Chavez, that international politics must be at the service of international law, of the great interests of the community of the region. Maduro asked for support from all the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean to continue with dialogues that his government maintains with the Venezuelan opposition under the mediation of Norway, and invited his sea-like colleagues to go and observe the November elections so that they can see the dictator Maduro calling the 29th election. You know what I'm saying? So Venezuela is ready to debate democracy with respect without exclusions. And he actually invited the Paraguayan and Uruguayan presidents to a debate on democracy. The first to raise his voice against the OAS was the president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, who affirmed that the organization, quote, instead of acting under the mandates of the Democratic Charter, acts against the principles of democracy, and maintained that their growing interference in the affairs of the states do not contribute to the peaceful settlement of disputes. Arce urged the members of the bloc to strengthen CELAC to face the deficiencies of the OAS.
Right.
The Mexican Undersecretary for Latin America and Caribbean, Reyes, ruled out that the reform of the OAS is on the agenda, but in statements to a local station assured the day before that if any member suggested Mexico and its capacity as president pro tempore of the bloc, Mexico is currently the president pro tempore of the bloc, of the committee of the CELAC. Every year they change, I think. Will propose the formation of a working group to reflect on the case. AMLO, which is the Mexican president, spoke out in favor of transformation of the OAS, while his foreign minister, Marcelo Ebrard, has been stronger and has even stated that it's time to say goodbye to the OAS and its interventionist, interference, and hegemonist sense, and that any other organization comes along, that let's build politically in agreement with the United States. And it should be built in agreement, politically in agreement. Since its creation in 2010, CELAC has promoted initiatives to try and reform the OAS, but none have been successful due to lack of consensus among the 32 members of the bloc. CELAC is our path. That's why I propose that the constitution of a General Secretariat of Latin American and Caribbean states be evaluated with a cold mind, with balance, and that we endow it with enough power to lead the construction of a united community, proposed Maduro. The presence of the Venezuelan president was surprising, who arrived in the Mexican capital on Friday night, accompanied by wife and son, and after it had been announced they would not come to the summit and be represented by the vice president. After his re-election in 2018, the Venezuelan president reduced his tours abroad and only traveled to Russia in 2019. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Since the United States presented charges against Maduro and 13 other senior officials for drug trafficking and terrorism in March last year, and it was announced that cash would be offered in exchange for information that would lead to the arrest and conviction of the president and his relatives, including rewards of up to $15 million. It is not known of any official exit. They also discussed the meeting would discuss the formulation of the Latin American and Caribbean Space Agency. So they're gonna make a space agency, the Latin American and Caribbean Space Agency, to cover the lag in the region and advance the proposal to place a satellite in space that tends to meteorological phenomena and serves to make mobile communication cheaper and more efficient. Also on the table was the creation of a coordination between the four countries that test vaccines against COVID-19 to have a vaccine in the region next year and reduce dependence on large laboratories and donations from other countries. So that's what this article kind of went over. Here's some pictures. Interesting. From that article. Any thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, I mean, well, they're trying to get together, form a unity and a bond within the Latin American states and whatnot to push the West out or further away from having to do what they're told to do. Even the fact that they want to get their own satellite there too as well is showing you, like, listen, we have to get away from our dependency on the United States. Yeah. They've always been about having their hands in our cookie jar. They shouldn't be able to dictate what we do. So Maduro showing up is like, yo, man, I'm serious. We got to do this. Let's go. I know you didn't think I was going to be here, but I'm here.
But he's going to be opposed. Yeah. So you can see the lines forming, right? You see the people that are going to back the West Uruguay, Paraguay, a lot of the countries right now. But a lot, like, I know Argentina's going to have elections, Chile's going to have elections. There's a fight between those that are against the West and those that are for the West. So that is up for debate still. And you see that the writing on the wall is that the United States is no longer necessary for a lot of people. Like Maduro points it out, let's get rid of the OAS. Lopez Obrador's was it his VP pointing out we need to do away with it completely. Lopez Obrador wants to reform it. His foreign minister, he wants to reform it, but his foreign minister saying no, let's get rid of it. So I think these people are seeing that the United States is weakening its hold on the world, and China, of course, presents the opposition. Now, if China comes in and says, hey, here's what we can do, here's what we can provide, that's going to change the game. And I think China is doing that because they have more money. They have a population that is doing pretty well financially, whereas we don't. We have the literal opposite. Yeah. And we're overextending ourselves in the military all over the world, and it's not working out. Exactly.
We're spread too thin. Our resources are everywhere. Our money's going all over the place. It's not coming at home. They're going to have a problem with its own citizens. That's why there's a big push to keep us divided against each other, because they don't want to lose their power.
Right.
And at this point, like, you start thinking about what's going on in the Middle East, pretty soon they're going to have to just say, hey, man, we can't deal with this anymore. This is just costing us too much. We're not getting the results we want. And they'll either pull out and go concentrate on getting over to Africa. Right, because Africa's like the uncharted territory right now, where they get infrastructure, all these things, all natural resources. So it's going to be a race against China and stuff. But here comes Xi Jinping, right? Johnny, he's walking in the door. Hey guys, you don't want to deal with America anymore? How you doing? My name is Xi Jinping. What can I help you out with?
Right, and they help countries build infrastructure. So he actually delivered a video speech to the CELAC summit, which we kind of just summarized. And here's what he said.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has addressed a summit of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, or CELAC. In a video speech, President Xi Jinping praised what he called a CELAC's important role in maintaining peace and stability. He added the forum has brought together friendly forces and deepened China-Latin America relations. Xi Jinping said China will continue to support the region to the best of its ability. The one-day summit in Mexico City dealt with regional problems like mass migration and COVID pandemic. 18 out of 32 members also supported creation of the Latin American and Caribbean Space Agency.
So that's kind of like a little summary. Xi Jinping was there. He pointed out that 10 years ago, CELAC was born under the efforts of Latin American and Caribbean countries to pursue independence and seek strength in unity, which was a milestone in the process of regional integration. China attaches great importance to developing relations with CELAC and supports CELAC in coordinating regional countries to carry out cooperation and cope with challenges, Xi said. He recalled the establishment of the Forum of China and CELAC in July 2014. In 2014, the CELAC established a forum with China. So there's no forum with the U.S., but there's one with China, which is interesting. Saying that the forum has developed a new way for the comprehensive cooperation between China and Latin America. He added that the forum has flourished over the past 7 years and become a major platform for bringing together friendly forces from all walks of life in China and Latin America, making important contributions to deepening China-Latin American relations. He said, having stood the test of the changing international landscape, China-Latin America relations have entered a new era, featuring equality, mutual benefit, innovation, openness, and tangible benefits for the people. And he, quote, said, China-Latin America friendship is time-honored and deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. They've never been imperialistic over here in South America, is what I think he's saying. And the same thing, Latin America has never been imperialistic over in China. Time honored there. And he noted that facing the outbreak, the COVID outbreak, they have lent each other a helping hand and carried out all-around cooperation against the pandemic. China's been giving some vaccines to Latin American countries. I know Peru has the Chinese vaccine. China will continue to provide support to Latin America and the Caribbean countries to the best of its capability and help regional countries overcome the pandemic and resume economic and social development. And he said that China's willing to work with them, overcome difficulties, and create opportunities to build a community of shared future
Right.
between China and Latin America. So
Yeah.
they're making moves.
Right.
China's
Meanwhile, the
making
United
moves.
States is
Meanwhile, they're trying to
sanctioning
fucking sanction
and
Yeah.
cooing and-
embargoes and just vilifying Latin American
Yeah.
countries. Of course, any so I don't consider China an empire yet. I mean, they technically, some people consider them. I consider them a superpower, right? They just don't have bases all over the world like we do.
They don't.
They don't. So
Yeah.
I don't really consider them an empire. However, they could potentially become an empire, and I think we need to be suspect of any power that's so deeply centralized. However, when you compare China to the United States, while they're both, major superpowers, the United States is the one in the West in general, not just the United States, but of course, you could look at Germany, you could look at the UK, you could look at our cohorts in NATO. They're the ones that exploit and have bases all over the world. They're the ones that are sanctioning people. They're the ones that are doing this. So obviously be mindful of any superpower, but I don't see China acting in the same way. Now, there are reports that China is doing things in Africa that are hurting the population. I definitely want to look more into that. But at the same time, I just don't see the comparison to being in some sort of equilibrium between China and the United States. I don't see that.
One of the reasons why they wanted to finish the Belt and Road Initiative and make sure they can get all the way through to Europe was for shipping lanes to get out to Latin America. It was very important for China to get that done. So, they can offer a lot of trade with China and Latin America. And it's all coming to fruition now. Now that Afghanistan's fallen, the Americans are pulling out. It's all going to happen. And it's what's going to happen to the United States? What's going to happen to the dollar? That is the question moving forward. So,
yeah, and then real quick, there's some other things I just want to mention from the sea lake. Panama's Foreign Relations Minister Erica Moines called attention to the region's problem of migration. Moines said that while only about 800 migrants were entering Panama a few months ago, mainly from Colombia, now about 220,000 are arriving every month. Panama is struggling to feed and care for the influx. The phenomenon can only be handled in a regional manner. Maduro, we already said this, that it was his first trip outside Venezuela since the U.S. government indicted him of drug trafficking and terrorism charges in March 2020 and offered a reward of $50 million for him. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel railed against the criticism of his country's crackdown on protests in July. He called the demonstrations an opportunistic campaign of slander financed by U.S. federal funds and which still threatens the stability, integrity, and sovereignty of my country. Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who U.S. prosecutors have signaled as having funded his political ascent with bribes from drug traffickers, spoke in a lengthy defense of his record. He has not been formally charged and accused the DEA of having employed drug traffickers who testified about his alleged drug ties. There has been a tsunami and avalanche of false testimonies. He has denied any wrongdoing. His brother, Tony Hernandez, was sentenced in New York to March in life in prison.
In March to life in prison.
In March to life in prison.
Wow.
They said Castillo gave a fairly moderate address. I did hear a little bit of it, and it was kind of moderate, focusing on Peru's status as one of the countries with the world's highest COVID-19 death tolls, which Castillo put at more than 200,000. There's more than that now in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Chinese President Xi Jinping sent a tape message to the meeting. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then there's some tweets that I want to show to wrap it up.
it's interesting with Peru now, right? With Castillo getting in there. That really kind of amps things up for, CELAC. Now they're like, okay, we now have an ally here, right? Can you imagine if it was Fujimori who got in? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
She forget about it.
Oh, it would be,
she's going to be aligning with the West.
She might not even shown up.
No, she would have. She would have sent
shown
a pleb.
I think there is a lot of pressure, though, on Castillo because there is an attempt to get rid of him in Peru. So that's why I think he is being extremely tame.
Yeah.
And also, he tried to appoint a Marxist as in the economic sector, and they threw out that guy and put in, a shitlib. So he's facing a lot of opposition right now. I'm going to be looking more into it, and we're definitely going to be looking more into it. But, it's interesting. I didn't get a chance. I shared Franco's coverage of him arriving in D.C., and that's interesting as well because he's kind of walking a thin line. If he plays it too safe, people are gonna be like, what are you doing? You're not opposing the West enough. If he is blatant, guns a-blazing, then they're gonna try to get him out as soon as possible, because that's kind of what they're trying to do right now. So,
What do you got, Johnny?
Yeah, so there's just some quotes that Telesur tweeted out, which were good. Yeah, I asked for the support of all the Caribbean and Latin American governments to Venezuela because the only path that Venezuela can have is dialogue, peace, reconciliation, and I appreciate all the support received by the CELAC. He also said, I propose to evaluate the establishment of General Secretary of the CELAC with sufficient power to build the dreams of our nations. So they're trying to build, you know how United States of America, right? United States, like maybe they're trying to build a united Latin America.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
which
saying?
I think would be the smart thing to do.
The integration of Latin America and the Caribbean is a great need. With this, we will fulfill the dream of Bolivar, San Martin, and Tupac Amaru. Today, our nations must join efforts to consolidate our integration bloc. And that was from Pedro Castillo.
That's actually a very that's a very dangerous statement to make.
Tupac Amaru.
Simon Bolivar was a great uniter, right? That initiated the liberation of all the Latin American countries. Tupac Amaru was a Peruvian native who rebelled against the Spanish crown and led a rebellion in order to fight for the independence of Peru. So you're talking about revolutionaries, and you're saying we need to do that. So
on a world forum.
On a world forum. So he's putting another target on his back. I think it's great that he's doing that, but of course, he's going to be attacked for it.
One of the presidents from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, says, we need to analyze our relationship with the USA. Many times we are between the submission and the resistance.
Yep.
We need to have a block conversation with the USA to reach practical agreements. That's really not going to happen, but
yeah,
they're being political about it, right? They're not going out there and going, screw the US, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to get too crazy.
Americans,
right?
I guess.
Yeah.
But.
Well, they have more practice at this than we do. These guys have been around for years and years and years and years, and have saw, the Western influence in Latin America. So I would trust them best on how to deal with it, I guess. Because I guess there are a lot of people when you go to Latin America that are like anti-communist, anti-socialist, whatnot. So there is a sense of walking on eggshells to make sure that you don't go full-blown Che Guevara and have the people go against you. You know what I'm saying? Like there is that sense of that's what I sense in the language. They're like, okay, well, they say our elections are unfair. Why don't you come in and watch our elections? Let's take a look. Like, just come on in and watch them. You know what I'm saying? So.
AMLO said it's time to replace the policies of blockades and mistreatments, working together and partnering for the good of the Americas without infringing on our sovereignties. He also said the CELAC can become the main instrument to consolidate relations between our Latin American and Caribbean countries. The last time they had a meeting was in 2017. So it's been years.
4 years?
Yeah. And I don't know why. I was looking at some videos that said that there's various reasons why. But yeah. And then Cuba, Diaz-Canel said, I thank the CELAC support against of the illegal economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed by the United States against Cuba, despite being condemned for decades by the overwhelming majority of the international community. It's kind of great that they're now selling their Cuban vaccine to Vietnam now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they're starting to get out of a hole maybe, but
they
still got
and they can
the
use
blockade.
it for trade too, Johnny.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they can send the vaccine over there. Vietnam's now manufacturing a lot of stuff. They can send it back to Cuba. Problem is blockades, that sort of thing. And that's what fucking AMLO was kind of pushing back about. Like, enough with this. He's directly talking about Venezuela and Cuba. Yeah. A little bit of Nicaragua, mainly Venezuela and Cuba. Like, stop the fucking blockades now.
Yeah.
Lift up.
Because those are only countries, basically.
Yeah.
And notice that the countries in the Caribbean and the majority of the countries in the Caribbean, especially the French, Spanish-speaking, and in South America and Central America, are all countries that have been exploited and just destroyed by Western hegemony, right? And so, of course, they're perking up and they're like, okay, we need to form alliances because they're not going to stop. And look, and China's coming in and saying, oh, we will have a mutual benefit in our alliances. So they're saying we're going to treat you better. Any allyship with us, you're going to have mutual interests. So they're being really, really smart and very practical about it, whereas the United States is just trying to be a bully. As they usually are, and just operate through fear and that kind of thing. Instead, China's like, oh, we'll offer you this, you offer us that, and so that's the smarter way to do it. The United States could fucking do it, but they don't, because this is who they've always been. So
yeah, and they're offering a lot of infrastructure. Like China's like, look at our country now. Look, it's like futuristic cities. We'll come over. We'll help you out. We'll send our engineers, whatnot. We'll use your labor, your workforce, your people. We'll give them jobs. We'll build you roads. As opposed to, hey, man, you do this or you're going to get a missile up your ass.
Right. And look at our crumbling infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right? This is Bernie Sanders ran on this 5 years ago. All crumbling infrastructure. It's gotten fucking worse. Yeah. It's gotten worse. Yeah. We are nowhere near where China is at.
But fam, we have an infrastructure bill coming down the pipeline.
That literally does nothing.
That literally helps pipelines.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to go more natural gas. You got to frack the fuck out of the country to get that natural gas.
Charge you for
driving on the road. So, Jesus Christ. They found a way to get the funds to come out of the little guys again. Austerity measures in that infrastructure bill. Nothing's been talked about. It's 2,600 pages. Nobody's hyping shit. It's just bullshit. Oh, is that it, Johnny? Yeah. All right, so the Italian Stallion says a little behind in the video, and this is related to this segment over here, but the top created a jury-like council of CEOs that enable companies.
TPP.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, but the TPP created a jury-like councils of CEOs that enable companies to sue for profits lost if they were denied anything. So they can sue you to drill in your backyard, and if you say no, and if you win, another company can try until you or your government is tired of paying them out, then they can drill. They can do this with any law blocking them. Hillary helped write it.
Right. And then she said she was against it.
Italian Stallion, great shit. I can vaguely remember the TPP. They talking about that shit.
It was 5 years ago when it was really big.
Yeah. By the way, we have 99 people watching. We only have 60 thumbs up, so we need some more thumbs up from you 99 people who are watching. And guess what time it is, fam?
It's time to go on Rokfin only.
Rokfin time, but we're also going to go on Odyssey.
Yeah.
There's 350 people watching.
Okay, yeah. Odyssey and Rokfin. Guys, get on over to Rokfin. This will answer a lot of your questions. So let's give a glimpse of what we're going to talk about, maybe. Yeah.
By the way, here's Ian also said the CIA and the NED have been funding a right-wing coup movement in Nicaragua. You participate in that, you go to prison, rightly. And that prevents you from being president. Quit shilling. And that is true because they've been trying to push back against Daniel Ortega for several years right now. And Nicaragua is one of those interesting countries that does trade with a lot of people. And they do trade with the West, trade with Russia, trade with China. But they've been trying to get him removed for quite some time. They don't like him at all.
Coming up next, guys, in case you didn't see it. So
a
lot of you, this is going to answer a lot of your questions. Pasta did a lot of research on this. So in case you need to go that route, come watch on Rokfin and Odyssey.
Come on.
Bye, Twitch.
Bye, Twitch. Goons.
Bye, Facebook.
Bye, Facebook. And is the link on YouTube?
No, I'm going to put it.
Okay. So somebody said that we're going to build a religion and you're going to be Pastor P.
Pastor P?
Pasta.
Pastor P.
Pastor Pasta. Say that fast 10
Pastor
times.
Pasta, Pastor Pasta, Pastor Pasta, Pastor Pasta, Pastor. 116 in Kalima. Let's get it up there, guys. 200.
27.
Hit that thumbs up. Help us out.
Just trying to pin this comment.
All right.
Okie dokes, guys.
All right, there you go.
All right, guys.
All right, YouTube, go to Rokfin.
Here we are, guys. Get over to Rokfin. Thank you so much. We love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Shadow Band Refugee.